Welcome to part one of this 5-part video series. In this 5-part series, we're going to talk about 4 popular diet types, the guidelines for these diets, what foods are friendly to these diets, and the pros and cons of each. In video 5, we're going to discuss further on what you can do to take the best from these diets to come up with your own unique solution. With each diet, we're going to be talking about this diet in the context of fat loss. And the first diet we're going to talk about is probably the one that is most popular in the media today and in the fitness industry, which is keto. The guidelines to keto are to follow the macros of 20% of your calories coming from protein, 5% coming from your carbs, and 75% coming from fat. What is believed to have happened is that your body will then go into a state of ketosis, which will ultimately allow you to burn fat more efficiently or quicker. With that, keto-friendly foods include meat and seafood, cheeses, nuts, different types of butters, low-calorie veggies or low-carb veggies, and then the last being what is now coming on the market and being heavily promoted is these keto-friendly supplements. So keto-friendly proteins, you'll have keto-friendly bars, and you'll also have keto-friendly foods such as baking goods and so on and so forth. Some of the pros of keto would be, first and foremost, helping those who are adopting a keto type of diet to become more macro conscious and understand what foods contain proteins, what foods contain carbs, and what foods contain fats. And for many diets and many times when I'm helping a client to come up with their own unique solution, one of the things we notice is they're not consuming enough protein. So becoming more macro conscious and increasing your protein to 20% of your overall calorie consumption oftentimes will help those to increase their protein, which will allow them to retain as much lean mass as possible when losing weight. And then the third thing that can be a pro to keto is depending on where you're at with your dietary intake, and for many, they're not monitoring and they're not conscious of what they're eating. They're not conscious of how many calories they're consuming. So by adopting something like keto, having a set of guidelines and picking particular foods to follow those guidelines, it can help them to reduce calorie consumption, ultimately helping them to lose weight. Some of the cons of keto would be it's going to cut out some of the certain foods that you love. So if you're a fruit person, if you like pasta, if you like to have bread every now and then, those foods are all carb heavy and ultimately will not fit into the keto guidelines because they'll spike your carbs up too high, not allowing you to sustain your macros and to lose that state of ketosis. Which something like that can cause keto to be unsustainable, or something like going out into a social setting, a social event where you don't have those keto-friendly foods available to you the way you would want to have them, or you just have cravings for some of the foods that are placed in front of you and your willpower is decreased because so many of the other people around you are eating the non-friendly keto foods or non-friendly keto macro-based foods, then it can cause the diet to be unsustainable. And if you are someone like me who has some keto friends, typically I see them adopt 2 styles of keto. The first is they're only going to adopt it for a certain period of time to try and lose X amount of weight, or the second is they're on and off the keto wagon. With either of these instances or either of these cases, keto ultimately is unsustainable in this regard, and many times, oftentimes when people divert back to their pre-keto habits, it will cause them to have weight regain. So pros of keto are conscious of your macros, increased protein intake, looking at how many calories you're consuming, and just having a set of guidelines to perhaps make you a little more strict on your diet and on your consumption. Whereas the cons of keto can be cutting out some of the foods you love, or it's perhaps unsustainable to your lifestyle or unsustainable in the long term and potentially can cause weight regain. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back tomorrow with my video on intermittent fasting, another really popular diet type in today's media with some examples of how I have used intermittent fasting successful and unsuccessfully as well.